So the Gold Ranger finally showed himself. Not really sure about this episode, actually. Hello and welcome to Ranger Rants. As everyone knows, I'm Archer9234. This is our channel's second series that will be airing weekly on Wednesdays, where basically I'll be discussing past or present PR episodes. So for our first episode, I'll be discussing Unexpected Arrival. Now this episode felt a little bit odd. I don't know, it was it was okay, but then at sometimes it was a bit weird. Unexpected Arrival is translated directly from Shinkenger episode 17 titled Sushi Samurai. And I say translated because Samurai basically is just simply translating Shinkenger for American audiences. Instead of like previous seasons where they basically just adapt footage and basic plot points. But this series is directly copying it with minor changes. While that may be good in some points, it's pretty bad in others. For example, in the Swordfish episode, which was episode 7, if I remember correctly, where Kevin had to get the swordfish out of the water, it wasn't handled well because they basically copied what Shinkenger did in that episode, but they didn't know what to do with the fisherman part of the story. So they basically made the fisherman a pointless character that made no sense, and then it just vanishes without like any development whatsoever. Now this place brings a perfect place where Antonio could have been inserted into the series prior to Unexpected Arrival. Antonio is a fisherman who sells fresh fish for people who come by. Kevin's episode where he was rescuing the swordfish sword would have been a perfect place to insert Antonio, instead of making a worthless fisherman appear and not do anything except rescue his life. We could have gotten a better introduction for Antonio, a little bit more of a tease for him, and Kevin would have known about him prior to everyone else. It would have been a better story point rather than having the random fisherman. Now, Unexpected Arrival also expanded on the main story for Samurai. We finally understand how the Shiba house, as so we call it, is protected by the Nihilok invading the base. Because if the Nihilok know where they are, why don't they actually attack the house and kill the Rangers off? They show that there's basically a shield system around the Shiba house where basically they're protected by any spells or magic or invasion. Although I don't understand how Antonio's arrow got through the shield. Maybe because he's a friendly and not an enemy who uses different kinds of symbol power? I don't know. That wasn't really explained in Samurai, and it wasn't really explained in Shinkenger either. Basically the story for Unexpected Arrival is where Antonio comes in, sends the arrow to the Shiba house, telling people this person, he's arriving and expect blah blah blah. No one knows who he is, and so the Rangers think it's an enemy attack, and that's what they assume. So they go and hunt out for whoever's sending these letters, and they encounter Antonio selling brochures for his fish. For the most part, Unexpected Arrival follows Shinkenger episode 17 with minor differences. Really, the only thing that was changed was the ending. Overall, the episode was an alright for me. I did have a lot of complaints though, mainly the acting. We're 11 episodes in and 3 of the actors still cannot deliver their lines correctly. What bothers me the most is that there are times when they can deliver the line perfectly, but then there are other times where they'll say a line in such a ridiculous way. It's like, what the hell's this? A perfect example is Emily's he's sparkly line. That was delivered very badly. Obviously, it was a direct translation from the Shinkenger episode where Kotoha does say that line, but it was said so badly. And Mia got better. In the beginning, she really couldn't act as well, but she did get a little bit better, but she does have some weird lines. Now, Kevin is split. There are times where he can do a good delivery, and there are times where he screws up. Mainly whenever he begins a sentence, he usually over-exaggerates something. Now Jaden, another one that can go either way. He plays mainly a stiff, so he doesn't really have that much of a personality at this point. So we don't know where he would go. So sometimes he's all right, and then sometimes he does deliver a line wrong. Mike, on the other hand, and Antonio are pretty good. They usually never, so far, never screwed up in their acting at all whatsoever, even though we only saw Antonio for one episode. He's alright in the acting, although some of his lines are pretty stupid. The few things I don't like about Antonio is basically his quirks. He basically tries to put in the word gold in every sentence he could think of, and putting in random Spanish in some places. Now, it's alright, because there's many different Rangers that had weird quirks for themselves. For example, Billy liked saying huge amount of words that were complicated for the team, where Trini had to translate for him. Another example is Jem and Gemma. They loved finishing each other's sentencing and blowing stuff up. That's alright, because they didn't always overuse them. But in one episode, Antonio was saying gold in every which way he could, and then sticking in Spanish. Hopefully this trait will ease out as we go along, because in the beginning, Jem and Gemma were frankly annoying in RPM, but as they went along, they got less annoying. So pretty much from this point on, after Mike and Emily, if I can remember correctly, were chasing Antonio around, it pretty much followed the Shinkenger plot. They eventually encounter the other half of the team. They join in, they lose, they're about to be killed, and Antonio appears upon the ledge over far away. Now, a couple of people I read in several Ranger Board posts were complaining, why doesn't Jaden recognize Antonio? I'm like, it's kind of obvious. When they showed the flashback at the end of the episode where they were kids, they only knew each other as were kids. So how would Jaden actually know who he was? Yeah, he sees his face from there, and then when he lands in front of them after he powers down, he still wouldn't recognize him, because last time he saw him was a kid. The only time he would generally recognize him was finally when he revealed the Octazord. Jaden gave the Octazord to Antonio when he was a kid, so obviously he's going to put two and two together and realize that's Antonio. Now let's talk about the Samurai Morpher. Unfortunately, the US didn't want to use the sushi changer, even though it would pretty much make sense, even though he was changed into a fisherman from a sushi seller. They're basically similar. But unfortunately, I guess sushi was too Asian, even though they write symbols on the air and do all this stuff. And Jaden follows Japanese tradition to a letter, and he's still Caucasian, so I don't understand why they got that logic. So unfortunately, we got a repainted Samuraiser. The weird thing is that during Antonio's morph, they're using the BOJ repainted Shotophone, which is fine. I expected them to use the Shotophone and not this, for example, the Sushi Changer. But when Antonio's using the Samurai Morpher, as they call it, instead of the Samuraiser, he's using the actual BOA toy. You can clearly see where it is when they're showing the flat front and the curved front during the morph. I don't understand why they were using the BOA toy, because the BOA toy is horrible, but they got away with it. So if you ever look at it, when he's outside of morph, he's using the BOA toy, and inside the morph, he's using the BOJ repainted Shotophone. And also another problem, thanks to not using the Sushi Changer, you'll always now notice when they're using Japanese footage versus American footage. Because if you ever look inside the little pouch that's on his belt, where it holds the Samurai Morpher, you're going to see the Sushi Changer 90% of the time. The thing I'm surprised about, though, is that they skipped over episodes 14, 15, and 16 of Shinkenger. People were kind of surprised that they skipped over, especially episode 14, was because episode 14 contained a foreign person coming into the series as Mr. Brown, and pretending to be a samurai and trying to, make all the cast members, be friends with him. That would have been a perfect place to actually fit Bulk, and it would have expanded on a point where Bulk and Spike could actually interact with the Rangers. Unfortunately, they go and skip it. So that seems kind of counterintuitive, where we could have gotten a good Bulk episode and a good Spike episode with that, but they skipped over it. Now, I mean, they could easily just do the episode later on. They don't have to follow the Shinkenger episodes exactly. Like how they retrofitted episode 5 of Mega Ranger to fit into the episode where Carlos and Adam comes back in space. That was really Mega Ranger episode 4 or 5, when it was really episode 20-something for In Space. So they can easily do that and back and forth. So other than that, I thought that was weird that they could have used that episode early on. The only other difference, basically, between the Shinkenger episode and the Samurai episodes was the ending. Once Jaden figured out Antonio was the Gold Ranger, they finally saw face to face and did a sparring match near the end. Well, in Shinkenger, that didn't happen. Takaru and Genta basically started arguing at the end of the episode and going back to the Shiba house. Although the cool thing though that they did was during the Octozord being called out, you see exit the sushi stand Genta uses. They actually redid the CGI and replaced it with Antonia's fishing stand. Overall, for myself, I thought the episode was alright. Due to the acting goof-ups and annoying translation problems, I kind of give it like a 3 out of 5 because of that. Because overall, the episode was alright. My main complaint is like certain things are not like Bulk and Skull. The entire episode, where was Bulk and Skull? They were complaining about futon mats for like 2-3 minutes. It was like, this doesn't have anything to do with Antonio or anything related. It's like, couldn't they at least interact with the monster again, like a few episodes earlier where they were almost attacked by the monster? But we keep getting Bulk and Spike moments that don't fit in an episode. It's like, I understand they're the comedy relief, but Bulk and Skull and MMPR fit within the episode because they would always start out in the episode with the Rangers, and then at the end finish it up with the Rangers, so they were always connected. But for some reason, in Samurai, Bulk and Spike are not really connected to the Samurai Rangers. It's really kind of annoying. Well, this is how I felt on the episode. I hope Samurai improves as we go along, especially after the 20 episode break, because due to all the rush job between filming all the episodes really rushed, recasting the cast members after the screw up with the contracts where they said you can't act. Basically what happened was you can't act in other shows or other movies for 2 straight years if you're signed on for Samurai, and they had most people quit and they had to rehire people, so they had to do a rush job, and so the first 20 episodes could be forgiven for that. Now, if the next 20 episodes, which is the second half of the season, I don't count it as season 2 because really in the end it's still 40 episodes, and PR seasons were usually around 40 episodes. So if they keep screwing up the seasons for no reason in episodes 21 through 40, I'm going to be really pissed off at it because I forgave it because of this. There's no excuse for this kind of really lazy writing because we're frankly just translating exactly everything from Shinkenger. I don't understand why people will be like, well, the target audience never saw it. It's just that they were rushing, and I hope they can improve it as we go along. Now, if the end of the series is still the same way, where they're still acting poorly, and they're doing translations where it abruptly cuts off and you don't get any explanation, aka where's episode 1 and episode 2 of Samurai, that's another problem. Again, thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoy the new Ranger Rant series I'm starting. Leave some comments below what you thought about this episode and Unexpected Arrival for yourself. Also, leave some suggestions of past or current episodes would you like me to review on. Thanks again. This is our series. This is our second show. This is our series. This is our channels. This is our second channel's series.